Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Tales from the Darkness. Gather round and try to stay in the light. Some of the others from the dark aren't quite as civil as I am, and I hate cleaning up that mess. Some woman stood in my flat right next to the shower curtain. From Raoul 9753. This happened a few years ago in my old one-person flat. I had a strange feeling that something wasn't right for a few days. Like I was sure that food in the fridge was less than I put back the last time. I found pillows from my couch on the floor, stuff like that. I lived alone back then, so there wasn't anyone else with access to my flat, or so I thought. Well, one night I woke up around 1 a.m, sweating. And even though I didn't remember, I was sure I woke from a nightmare. Since I was drenched in sweat, I decided to take a shower, so I put my phone up in the bathroom for music, turned on the water, and enjoyed my shower. A few minutes in, I heard the door move. I never close it, but it still never moves. I took a look at the shower curtain and saw a shadow against it, and a look at my phone confirmed someone was there, since I could clearly see a reflection in my screen that showed someone standing next to the shower curtain. It took me a lot not to scream and to keep acting like I didn't notice anything, while silently taking the shower head off the holder and turning the water all the way to hot. I'm still kind of impressed at that quick thinking. The water gets really hot when you crank it all the way, and a few seconds later, steam was rising and the water hurt my feet flowing to the drain. I turned around, ripped the shower curtain open, and held the shower head right at the person behind. It was a woman. She screamed in pain. I whacked her in the face with the shower head and jumped out of the shower and ran to the door, taking the key out of the lock and locking it behind me. A little later, she started to bang on the door, but the door didn't give. Thank God for German quality work. I called the cops and went to the kitchen to get my big kitchen knife just for safety. I felt like my throat was closing up when I saw it missing and realized there's only one place where it could possibly be right now. The police came and arrested the woman, who turned out to have been a former person living in the flat and was evicted after not paying rent. Seems she made a copy of the key and came into the flat while I was at work and sometimes at night. It's possible that what woke me up in the first place was her, and honestly, I don't even want to think about it. Ever since then, I always insist that the locks are changed when I move into a new place. My Stalker, from Fallen Rose. So I'm your average 21-year-old girl who in her spare time likes to go on dating apps. I found a knockoff dating app that's kinda like Tinder, but it's for guys that like curvy women. So off the bat, I find a couple of nice guys to chat with, but the next day, I get the message that changed everything. Usually my type is guys my age, but he was older, like in his 40s older. We weren't even 8 chat bubbles in until he said, "I can tell that you'd be a wonderful mother." I took this as a compliment at first. That wasn't the creepiest thing I've heard a guy say to me. Honestly, I should have stopped talking to him, but I was bored, and the rest of my chats ghosted me, so I stuck with this conversation. He told me how he lives in the next town over from my small town, so he was actually really close to me. He was a single dad, so that "you'll be a wonderful mother" compliment meant something different now, in a creepy way. He was a bartender at 2 bars, one in his town, and he worked at another in my town. At the bar in my town where he did his weekend shifts, he was only 5 minutes away, which kinda unnerved me because I didn't want to see him in real life. A week later, he started getting really clingy, sending me good morning texts with 4 emojis following it. I didn't want to be mean, so I kept it short and simple and said hi back. Then he said, "Listen, I'm going to the beach this weekend in my Jeep. I'd love for you to come so I could make you happy for a day." Plus, I'd like to get a peek at that curvy body that you claim to have. I said I was busy with work stuff and that I couldn't go. He just dismissed it and said he'd miss me. I did feel like going to the beach though that day, so I went to a local spot that was past his town by a few miles. I was there for about an hour and I was tanning on my stomach, but then I heard someone walking up to me. Looking up, I saw a beefy-looking guy who looked to be late 30s. He smiled at me in a weird way, which freaked me out, and before I could ask what his deal was, he said, "So, this is work stuff." My heart stopped for a second. It couldn't be him. I never saw his face before, but who else would know what I said in my text messages? "This was the beach that I was going to. What a coincidence, huh?" He smirked. I just nodded and started to gather my things. Yeah, really is a coincidence. When I stood up, he took a long stride forward so that he stood right in front of me, leaving little space between us. "Hey, looks like you're changed to go swimming. Shall we go into the water?" He smirked again. I was getting really nervous. I said no and went to my car quickly and drove off. I saw him standing on the grass beside the road, waving at me with a smile. What a frickin' psycho. Another week passed, and I kept my communication with him short. But during the week, I had odd run-ins with him. First at Walmart. I could understand this because he lives in a house behind Walmart, but still, it was weird. Then I went to a bar that was a couple minutes from my house. I was there with my friend, and we took some pictures together, and I put them on my Instagram. 30 minutes later, he came in with his work attire on. He sat down next to me while my friend was on the other side. "Oh, you come here too?" I looked at him oddly and say, "I come here every Friday with my friend. I've never seen you here before. Why are you here?" "Just passing by. I saw your car and thought I'd say hi." "Also, what are you drinking? I can buy you another." My friend grabs my knee, and I know she's telling me to get out of here. I just say no thanks and quickly pay for my drinks. He got up too and followed us outside. "You can't drive, you've been drinking. Let me take you home. I can take care of you." I was scared. His tone of voice sounded so desperate. I said no and walked to my car and drove home, also making sure I wasn't being followed. The next day, I got a text early in the morning from him. "Hey baby, I was so worried about you last night. I did some digging on my laptop and found your address. You need to be more careful with your privacy, sweetie." I called him on his bluff, saying that he didn't have my address. But in the next few seconds, there it was. My full address and even more information, like the names of my parents, my full name, all our birthdays. I was terrified. "I can come over and comfort you now. I want to show you how much I love you, and I'll make you fall for me too." I didn't know what to do. At that moment, I was alone, and I had to think fast. The neighbor across the street from me was an ex-cop, so I gathered my keys and my phone and ran to his house, praying he'd be home. I saw his truck in the driveway, and I felt so relieved. I saw him in the garage. I ran over telling him I needed help. He listened to my story and had a look of concern the whole time. He told me to come inside and look out the window for his Jeep to go down my driveway. If it was him and he turned into my driveway, my neighbor would call the police. It was about 20 minutes, but I heard a loud noise coming down the road, and there he was in his Jeep. He turned right and slowed down, I guess to find the right house. He saw my address and quickly pulled in. My neighbor grabbed the phone and started talking to the police directly instead of the operator. I got a text on my phone from him saying, "I'm at your door, so this is where you hide." I felt sick. I'm just waiting for the police to come barreling down my road to get him. I think he realized I'm not answering the door, so he got back into his Jeep to leave. But the timing couldn't have been more perfect because 2 police cars came around the corner and blocked off my driveway so he couldn't go anywhere. I went outside and saw him in handcuffs. He saw me too, and he honestly looked heartbroken. I didn't feel bad though. What he did was crazy. There wasn't enough evidence to put him in jail for too long, but I did get a restraining order, which is working well so far. Almost Kidnapped, from Aurora X Sky. At the time, I was quite young, maybe around 6 to 7 years old, but I still remember it so perfectly. I was in central London for the day with my family, and it was getting to the evening, so we had begun heading home. We don't live too far out of central London, so we were just going to get a taxi to the nearest train station and head back from there. Being so young, inexperienced with the world, and plain stupid, when we got out of the taxi at the train station, I thought it was custom to wave goodbye to the taxi driver as they drove off. Yeah, stupid. So after I'd finished waving goodbye to this complete stranger of a taxi driver, I turned around and I saw my family had completely gone, vanished from thin air. I was so young, I had no idea what just happened. They just suddenly weren't anywhere to be seen. Being a short kid, everyone was like giants. At this age, it was terrifying. At that moment, everything I learned about stranger danger went completely out of the window and no longer mattered. I was just terrified. So I remember choosing to sit in the middle of the pavement and do the only thing I knew how to, and just cry, hoping my parents would soon find me. "Are you okay?" I looked up to the side and saw a man sitting on the bench next to me, but sitting in such a way where his bum was on the backrest bit and his feet were on the seat, making him completely tower over me. I remember the image of him so clearly. "I've lost my family. Let me help you find them." I can't remember the exact conversation very well, except for the next thing he said. "I think I saw them go this way. Follow me." That line has stuck with me ever since. He stood up and took hold of my hand and started leading me down the road. Completely oblivious and just glad that I had an adult with me now, I just calmly went with him. Just as he was about to lead me around the corner of a building, I heard a voice call my name. My brother, only being about 2 years older than me at the time, had come running out of the train station and seen me just before I was about to completely disappear out of sight around another road in London. A few seconds later, running outside, and there's no way he would have seen me. My parents followed and quickly ran out too, grabbing me away from the man, making sure I was okay. I don't remember what happened to the man after that. Part of my memory says he quickly ran away after my family got me. Another part tells me that he stayed and explained to my parents his course of events. None of us really remember. I just know that I'm so lucky I didn't go around that corner with him. I always think how different my life could have been if I did. Thinking about it, the station entrance was only a few meters from where I'd sat down to cry. It wasn't that busy. The man must have seen my family go into the station. But that's one thing I'll luckily never know the answer to. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you want to hear more. If you would like to have your story narrated, you can send it to storiesofdarkness55@gmail.com. And as always, pleasant dreams.